Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, let's try a little thought experiment. Picture Earth, way, way back. Maybe over 2 billion years ago. What do you see on land?
Pretty much nothing, right? Just rock, dust, silence.
Barren, lifeless. Now, snap back to today. Look around you or just imagine a park or forest. Green, sounds, life everywhere.
It's a staggering difference. And that profound transformation from rock to rainforest, well, that's down to the two groups we're diving into today.
That's our mission, digging into how plants and fungi, this kind of unlikely duo, completely reshaped our planet. We're using Chapter 26 of Campbell Biology and Focus, the colonization of land, as our guide.
Yeah, and in understanding the story, it's like a shortcut to really getting the history of life on Earth. It's foundational stuff.
And it is a surprising team-up, isn't it? Plants and fungi, they went their separate evolutionary ways over 1.2 billion years ago, not closely related at all.
Not at all. But the fossil record, it really suggests they tackled land together. Plants providing the oxygen and the food base, and fungi. Well, fungi doing the essential recycling job.
The unsung heroes breaking things down. It's a partnership that literally laid the groundwork for everything else, including us.
It really did.
Yeah.
So let's start with the plants. How did they make that leap from water to land? They didn't just, pop up.
Right. They came from somewhere, aquatic ancestor.
Exactly. They evolved from green algae, specifically a group called charophytes.
Okay, charophytes. So what's the connection? What evidence links them so clearly? I mean, lots of things are green and live in water.
Sure, they share the basics, multicellular photosynthesis, cellulose walls. But the really strong links are more specific, like these unique circular rings of proteins they use to make cellulose, found in their plasma membranes.
Okay.
Only plants and charophytes have those. And their sperm, if they have flagellated sperm, look remarkably similar structurally.
Ah, so structural details.
And the molecular evidence is powerful. Comparing hundreds of protein-coding genes points right at one particular group of charophytes, the Zygnomatophyceae, as the closest living relatives. It's quite solid.
So the genetic fingerprint matches. Okay, but why leave the water? What was the pull towards land, considering how, well, difficult it must have been?
Oh, the potential payoff was huge. Imagine. Unfiltered sunlight, way more CO2 available than dissolved in water, and nutrient-rich soils right there at the edges. An open frontier.
Resources galore. But the downsides.
Big ones. Water was suddenly scarce, unpredictable, and gravity. Without water's buoyancy, structural support was a massive problem.
Think of a jellyfish on a beach just collapses, right?
Yeah, okay, that paints a picture. So plants needed some serious upgrades, these derived traits that set them apart from algae.
Absolutely. Key innovations. First up, sporopollenin.
Sporopollenin.
Sounds tough.
It is. It's this incredibly durable polymer. In charophytes, it protects their zygotes from drying out. In plants, crucially, it encases their spores.
Ah, like a protective coating for the reproductive units.
Exactly. Makes them super resistant to harsh, dry conditions. And it meant they could be dispersed by wind. Huge advantage for spreading onto land.
Like microscopic survival pods. Okay, what else?
Whole different life cycle. It's called alternation of generations.
Right, I remember this. Not like animals, plants have two distinct multicellular forms.
Correct. A haploid stage, the gametophyte, which makes gamete, sperm, and eggs, and a diploid stage, the sporophyte, which makes spores. They alternate back and forth.
That sounds complex. Why do that?
It likely offered flexibility, different strategies for reproduction and dispersal in this new, variable terrestrial world.
Okay, more adaptations.
Yes, multicellular dependent embryos. This is why plants are often called embryophyte.
Embryo plants.
Yeah. The developing embryo isn't just released, it's kept inside the female gametophyte tissue, protected, nourished, getting nutrients via special placental transfer cells, like internal parental care.
A safe start in a tough world. Makes sense.
Then, related to sporopollenin again, you have walled spores produced in specific structures called sporangia.
Okay, sporangia are like spore factories.
Pretty much. Multicellular organs on the sporophyte, where meiosis happens, producing those tough, sporopollenin-coated haploid spores, ready for dispersal.
Got it. How did they handle actually growing on land, reaching for light and water?
That's where apical meristems come in. Think of them as permanent growth zones at the very tips of roots and shoots.
Meristems, like stem cells for plants.
Sort of, yeah. Regions of continuous cell division. Allows plants to keep elongating shoots reaching up for sunlight, roots pushing down for water and nutrients, constantly exploring their environment.
Always growing, always reaching. Smart. But what about water loss? Just drying out in the air?
Two more key things. The cuticle and stomata. The cuticle is this waxy coating over the epidermis. like a waterproof jacket.
Keeps the water in.
Mostly, yeah. But plants need gas exchange, right? CO2 in, O2 out for photosynthesis. So they evolved stomata.
The little pores.
Exactly. Tiny adjustable pores, usually on the underside of leaves. They can open to let gases flow, but close up tight when the plant needs to conserve water. Really clever.
Wow, okay. That's a whole toolkit for terrestrial life. Does the fossil record back this up? When do we see these things appearing?
It lines up pretty well. The oldest evidence is microscopic spores, with that sporopollenin signature looking like modern liverwort spores. Those date back about 470 million years.
That far back.
Yeah. Then, around 425 million years ago, we start seeing larger structures, like fossils of Cooksonia, which clearly had sporangia. And by 400 million years ago, fossils like aglaophyton show plants with water-conducting tissues, cuticles, stomata, branch, sporophytes. The whole package was starting to come together.
So plants were making their move, but you said they weren't alone. Where do the fungi fit in, the other half of this duo?
Ah, yes, the fungi. Absolutely crucial. They have a totally different way of life. They're heterotrophs, like us. They need to get food from outside.
But they don't, like, eat it, right?
No, they don't ingest food. They secrete enzymes outside their bodies. Powerful hydrolytic enzymes that break down complex molecules, wood, dead leaves, you name it. Then they just absorb the smaller digested compounds.
External digestion, wow. So they're nature's decomposers.
The ultimate decomposers and recyclers. Their structure is perfectly built for this. Their cell walls have chitin. There's the same stuff in insect exoskeletons. Gives them strength, but also flexibility, helps them deal with absorbing lots of water by osmosis without bursting.
Okay, chitin walls, and they form those networks.
Yes, the mycelium. It's this vast interwoven network of tiny threads called hyphae. The key thing is the surface area. It's astronomical.
How big are we talking?
Get this. 1 cubic centimeter of good soil might contain a kilometer of hyphae. A kilometer that gives a surface area of maybe 300 square centimeters. Think, like a tennis court's worth of absorptive surface packed into that tiny space underground.
That is absolutely mind-boggling. A tennis court, no wonder they're good at absorbing stuff.
It's all about maximizing contact with their food source. Pure efficiency.
So evolutionarily, where do they sit? Closer to us than plants, right?
That's right. Molecular data puts fungi and animals together in a group called the opisthocons. We share a more recent common ancestor with fungi than either of us do with plants. Multicellularity evolved independently in fungi and animals, though.
Interesting. And when do they show up on land in the fossil record? Around the same time as plants?
Pretty close. The oldest widely accepted terrestrial fungal fossils are about 460 million years old. So, yeah, it really looks like they were moving onto land around the same time as the early plants. Co-colonizers.
Which brings us to that crucial partnership. Mycorrhizae, fungus roots.
The cornerstone, really. Mycorrhizae are these intimate, symbiotic relationships between fungal hyphae and plant roots. It's a classic mutualism.
How does it work? What's the trade-off?
The fungus is brilliant at exploring the soil and absorbing phosphate and other minerals that plants struggle to get. The hyphae act like a huge extension of the plant's root system. In return, the plant pipes sugars produced through photosynthesis down to the fungus.
You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Mineral uptake for sugars. How ancient is this deal?
Incredibly ancient. We've got fossil evidence. 405 million-year-old fossils of that early plant, aglaophyton, show fungal hyphae inside the plant cells, forming structures called arbuscules, just like modern mycorrhiza.
Wow, direct fossil evidence of the interaction.
And molecular evidence, too. Genes essential for forming mycorrhiza, the SIM genes, are found across all major plant groups, even the earliest diverging ones like liverworts. This strongly suggests the partnership was there right from the start, and probably essential for plants to even survive on land initially.
Okay, so plants and fungi arrive, they partner up. What did those very first land plants look like? The ground cover.
Those were the non-vascular plants, the bryophytes. Think liverworts, mosses, hornworts. They branched off the plant tree of life early on.
Like the moss you see on rocks.
Exactly. That green carpet is mostly the gymnophyte stage, which is dominant in bryophytes. They have rhizoids for anchoring, but not true roots. And crucially, they lack vascular tissue xylem and phloem, which means they can't transport water efficiently over long distances, and they lack rigid structural support. So they stay small, low to the ground, and they need moist environments because their sperm have flagella and need water to swing to the egg.
Ground huggers tied to damp places. But then things changed. Plants started getting taller.
Yes, the rise of vascular plants. This started around 425 million years ago, and they quickly came to dominate. Their life cycle flipped. The sporophyte generation became the dominant larger stage. Think of a fern, that's the sporophyte.
And the key was the vascular tissue itself, xylem and phloem.
That was the breakthrough. Xylem conducts water and minerals up from the roots. Its cells, tracheids, are reinforced with lignin.
Lignin, that's the key to getting tall.
Absolutely. Lignin is this incredibly strong, rigid polymer. It provides structural support against gravity. Suddenly, plants could grow tall. Phloem, the other vascular tissue, transports sugars produced during photosynthesis around the plant.
So plumbing and scaffolding all in one. What was the advantage of height?
Huge advantage. Getting taller meant outcompeting shorter neighbors for sunlight, critical resource. And taller plants could disperse their spores much further on the wind. It drove diversification and colonization. This led to the first forests.
And they developed proper roots and leaves along the way.
Yes, true roots evolved for better anchoring and absorption, and leaves became the main photosynthetic organs. Early vascular plants, like lycophytes, had microphyls, small, often spine-like leaves with just a single vein of vascular tissue.
Micro, small leaves.
Right. Later, around 370 million years ago, megaphylls evolved. These are the larger leaves with complex, branched vascular systems that you see on most plants today. Much more efficient at capturing light and doing photosynthesis.
Okay, so taller plants, better leaves, roots. This all leads up to those famous Carboniferous swamps, right?
Exactly. The Carboniferous period, roughly 360 to 300 million years ago, dominated by vast forests of seedless vascular plants, giant ferns, lycophytes, horsetails. Very swampy. But then the climate started to dry out.
Setting the stage for the next big innovation.
Precisely. The seed.
The seed. Now that feels like the master key to truly conquering dry land.
It really was revolutionary. Seeds appear in the fossil record around 360 million years ago. What is the seed? It's basically an embryo packaged up with its own food supply inside a protective coat, a little survival capsule.
Ready for anything. And seed plants today are mainly
Two big groups. Gymnosperms, think conifers. Cycads, their seeds are naked, not enclosed in a fruit. And the angiosperms, the flowering plants, their seeds develop inside a protective chamber called an ovary.
Okay. How did seeds help plants break free from needing damp environments?
Several ways. First, their gametophys became tiny, microscopic even, and they develop inside the parent sporophyte, no longer free-living and vulnerable. They're protected from drying out, from UV light, and get nutrients from the parent.
So the vulnerable stage is now hidden and protected. Smart.
Very. And the female gametophyte develops within an ovule, which includes protective layers from the parent sporophyte. The male gametophyte is packaged into a pollen grain.
Pollen, that's the other key, isn't it? No more swimming sperm.
Exactly. Pollen grains are coated in that tough sporopollen again. They can be carried by wind, or later by animals, directly to the vicinity of the ovule. This is pollination. It completely eliminates the need for water for fertilization. Plants could now reproduce in truly dry places.
That's a huge evolutionary leap. What makes seeds superior to spores for dispersal and survival?
Several things. Spores are single-celled. Seeds are multicellular and embryo plus food plus protection. Seeds can often remain dormant for much longer, waiting for good conditions, sometimes years. Spores typically don't last as long. And crucially, the seed has that stored food supply to give the young seedling a strong start when it germinates. Spores don't have that.
A packed lunch for the baby plant. Okay, so gymnosperms came first.
Yes, early seed plants evolved, and then gymnosperms really took off, especially as the climate became drier after the Carboniferous. They dominated through the Mesozoic era, the age of dinosaurs. Their seeds, pollen, tough leaves, thick cuticles were perfect adaptations.
But then came the angiosperms, the flowering plants. They seem to be everywhere now. When did they show up, and why did they become so incredibly successful? There are, over 250,000 species?
Their rise is remarkable. They started diversifying later in the Mesozoic. Their success comes down to two major innovations: flowers and fruits.
Flowers, not just pretty, but functional.
Highly functional. Flowers are specialized structures for reproduction. They often use animals, insects, birds, bats as pollinators, transferring pollen much more efficiently and specifically than wind. The key angiosperm feature is the carpel, which encloses the ovules and develops into the fruit.
And the fruit, that's basically the ripened ovary wall.
Exactly. After fertilization, the ovary matures into a fruit. Fruits protect the seeds, but their main role is often dispersal. Think of burrs catching on fur, or berries being eaten, and the seeds passing through an animal's gut, or lightweight fruits carried by wind. Ingenious ways to spread seeds.
Right. Darwin famously called their seemingly sudden appearance an abominable mystery. Have we gotten closer to solving it?
We've made huge strides. We now have older fossils angiosperm pollen from 130 million years ago, beautifully preserved flowers like Archifructus from China around 125 million years ago. It looks like a more gradual diversification over maybe 20 or 30 million years, not an overnight explosion.
So the picture is becoming clearer.
Yes, and molecular studies help trace their relationships. It seems the common ancestor was likely woody. We now recognize major groups like the early diverging basal lineages and then the massive radiations of monocots and euticots.
Okay, so we've seen how plants and fungi conquered land and diversified incredibly. Let's circle back to their planetary impact. How did this whole process literally rewire Earth's systems?
The impact was transformative on a global scale. Physically, they created soil. Lichens that fungus-algae partnership break down bare rock. Plant roots penetrate rock, stabilize soil, and their decaying matter adds organic richness. Without them, land would be mostly barren rock and dust.
So they make their own habitat, essentially, and the atmosphere. Oxygen, obviously.
Huge oxygenators through photosynthesis, making the air breathable. But also massive effects on carbon dioxide and climate, those carboniferous forests. They drew down so much atmospheric CO2 that it likely triggered a major cooling event, an ice age.
Wow. And all that buried plant matter became...
Coal, locking away immense amounts of carbon for hundreds of millions of years. Burning it now is, well, releasing that ancient carbon and driving modern climate change.
The carbon cycle link is profound.
It is. Even plant roots weathering rocks releases chemicals that wash into the ocean and eventually help lock up CO2 and marine carbonate rocks. It's all connected.
Beyond the physical planet, how did they change the web of life itself, the interactions?
Fundamentally, plants became the base of almost all terrestrial food webs, capturing solar energy. Fungi became the great recyclers, breaking down dead material and returning vital nutrients, carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus to the ecosystem so plants could reuse them. Life would grind to a halt without fungal decomposition.
They close the loop. What other roles do fungi play? We mentioned mycorrhiza.
Right? Crucial mutualists. They can also be endophytes, living inside plant tissues, often harmlessly, sometimes even protectively, like fungi in cacao leaves that deter pathogens.
Internal bodyguards.
Kinda, yeah. But of course, some fungi are major pathogens themselves, causing devastating diseases in plants, like chestnut blight, which wiped out American chestnut forests. So they play many roles.
And the interactions between plants and animals must have shaped evolution too.
Absolutely. A constant co-evolutionary dance. Plants evolved, defenses, thorns, toxins. Herbivores evolved ways to overcome them. Pollination is another huge area of co-evolution between plants and their animal pollinators.
And you mentioned something fascinating earlier. Flower shapes influencing how fast new species evolve.
Yes. It's thought that bilaterally symmetrical flowers, like orchids or snapdragons, the ones you can only divide into mirror images one way, might promote speciation. Because their specific shape often guides pollinators to deposit pollen in a very precise spot. This can restrict gene flow between slightly different flower forms or populations, making it easier for them to diverge into distinct species over time compared to radially symmetrical flowers, like daisies where pollen transfer might be more general.
That's subtle, but makes sense. Wow.
And studies comparing related groups support this. The bilateral lineages often do have more species. It shows how interconnected evolution is at every level.
It's just incredible. From bare rock to this complex, interconnected world, all driven by plants and fungi figuring out how to live on land together.
And that long, long history, hundreds of millions of years of co-evolution and ecosystem building brings us right to today. The systems they establish, nutrient cycling, oxygen production, soil formation, complex food webs, are the foundations of our world.
Which makes the current situation quite alarming.
Deeply alarming. Human activities, especially habitat destruction like deforestation, particularly in the tropics, are threatening plant species at an unprecedented rate. And when plants go, the animals and fungi that depend on them are also at risk. We could be causing a mass extinction event on par with those in Earth's deep past.
It really puts our responsibility into perspective. We've traced this incredible journey, this colonization that terraformed a planet, thanks to the intertwined fates of plants and fungi.
From lifeless land to a green, breathing world, built on adaptations like sporopollenin, vascular tissue, seeds, flowers, and crucial partnerships like mycorrhizae. It's a story of resilience, innovation, and interdependence.
So maybe the final thought to leave everyone with is this. We've seen how this intricate dance between plants and fungi over vast stretches of time created and maintained the very systems that support us. How does our current impact changing the climate, clearing forests, disrupt that ancient balance? What does it mean for the future of these ecosystems and for our own future within them? Something to really ponder.